There's a pop-up appearing on Windows computers right now that Microsoft does not want to talk about publicly. It is not a virus. It is not a hacker. It came from Microsoft itself, installed silently on your machine without asking permission, and it has one single purpose: to get you used to the idea of paying a monthly fee for software you already own. And this week, a story exploded across every major technology forum, every YouTube channel, every social media feed in the tech world, claiming that Windows 12 was coming, that it would be subscription-based, that Microsoft was preparing to lock your own desktop behind a monthly payment, and that if your hardware was more than 2 years old, you might not even be able to run it. Millions of people panicked. Millions of people shared that story, and almost no one stopped to ask the single most important question: is any of it actually true? Before this video is over, you're going to have the full picture. What is real? What is fabricated? What Microsoft has quietly admitted behind the noise? And most importantly, a complete step-by-step method to permanently kill every single Copilot subscription pop-up on your Windows 11 machine today, using tools you already have in less than 15 minutes. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand what Microsoft is actually planning, why it is far more dangerous than the viral rumor, and exactly how to protect yourself from it right now. Let us start with the story that set the internet on fire. Because to understand what Microsoft is actually doing, you first need to understand the difference between a manufactured panic and a real, documented, ongoing threat to your wallet and your privacy. In the first week of March 2026, a wave of articles appeared across dozens of technology websites, all carrying essentially the same claim. Windows 12 was arriving in 2026. It would be built from the ground up around artificial intelligence. It would require a dedicated neural processing unit capable of 40 or more TOPS of computational performance to run properly, effectively locking out any computer more than 2 years old. And most alarmingly, it would be sold through a subscription model, replacing the one-time license or bundled OEM purchase that Windows users have relied on for decades, with a recurring monthly payment that you would be required to make indefinitely just to use your own computer. The story spread with extraordinary speed. It hit Reddit front pages, it dominated Windows-focused YouTube channels, it generated hundreds of thousands of social media shares. And it terrified an enormous number of ordinary Windows users who had already been pushed to their limit by 2 years of forced Copilot integrations, controversial privacy features, and an update pipeline that had been breaking more things than it fixed. Here's the truth, confirmed by multiple independent technology journalists and publications who actually track Microsoft's internal communications, insider preview, builds, and official developer documentation. Windows Latest, one of the most reliable and closely followed Microsoft-focused technology publications in the world, investigated the viral story and published a direct fact check. Microsoft is not releasing Windows 12 in 2026. There is no credible evidence that the company is building a mandatory subscription-based version of Windows for consumers. Windows Central, another publication with deep sourcing inside Microsoft, reached the same conclusion. The Windows Forum conducted its own multi-source analysis and found that the entire viral narrative, the 2026 launch date, the mandatory subscription model, the 40 TOPS, NPU requirement for basic functionality, did not stand up to scrutiny. The story had all the characteristics of what technology journalists are now calling a modern internet hallucination, a cycle where an AI-generated speculative article gets scraped, rewritten, and republished by other AI-driven content farms until the rumor has been cited so many times that it begins to read like confirmed news. The Windows Latest investigation found the actual origin of the story. One publisher posted an AI-generated speculative piece drawing on old, recycled internal code names and abandoned project concepts from years earlier. Other AI-driven websites scraped that article, rewrote it, and published the same claims as original reporting. Those articles got shared on social media, which generated engagement signals that pushed them higher in search results, which caused more people to find and share them, which generated more engagement, completing a self-reinforcing loop that had nothing to do with actual reporting from inside Microsoft and everything to do with automated content systems feeding on each other. The references to Hudson Valley as a code name for Windows 12, the core PC modular architecture concept, the subscription status flags in Windows code, none of these were new discoveries. Windows enthusiasts and Microsoft watchers had noted that these topics had been circulating as internal discussions inside Microsoft as far back as 2022 and 2023. And crucially, the Windows Forum confirmed what happened to each of them. The Hudson Valley and core PC work from the Panos-Panay era of Windows leadership was largely scrapped after leadership changes inside Microsoft's Windows division. The work that had been done ultimately became Windows 11 version 24H2 instead of a separate new operating system generation. The subscription status flags found in internal Windows code, which had sparked alarm when they first appeared, referred to cloud-based enterprise service licensing, specifically the IoT Enterprise Subscription Edition of Windows aimed at commercial embedded device deployments, not a consumer operating system subscription model. As of March 2026, Microsoft has not published any official announcement, roadmap entry, or developer preview channel that uses Windows 12 as a shipping consumer product name for this year. Microsoft's own Windows chief, Pavan Davuluri, has outlined the future direction of Windows in terms of evolving Windows 11 with incremental AI experiences and platform updates targeted at specific silicon families, not a dramatic generational replacement arriving on a defined timeline. The System.Plus analysis of Microsoft's actual 2026 roadmap identified what is actually coming this year. Windows 11 26H2, the fall update, currently in development with a specific goal of rehabilitating the Windows 11 reputation after years of AI feature overreach. Microsoft's own engineering leadership has acknowledged internally that the strategy of forcing Copilot into every corner of the operating system, into Notepad, into Paint, into File Explorer, into the right-click context menu, into the search bar, into the startup experience, was a significant misstep. The 26H2 update is expected to begin reversing some of that, making AI features optional rather than intrusive, and restoring some of the customization capabilities that users have been requesting for years. So, the viral panic was manufactured. Windows 12 is not arriving as a mandatory subscription operating system in 2026. You can take a breath. But here's the critical second half of this story, the part that virtually no mainstream coverage of this situation has explained with the clarity it deserves. Just because the specific panic was manufactured does not mean the underlying threat is not real. Because while the viral story was getting debunked across technology publications, Microsoft was quietly doing something that every Windows user needs to understand and take seriously. The subscription model that the viral story described as a future threat is not a future threat. It is already here, it is already installed on your computer, and it is already trying to get you to start paying. Let us talk about what Microsoft has actually done, as opposed to what the rumor said it was planning. Microsoft 365, which replaced the product previously sold as Office, is no longer available as a permanent one-time purchase for most consumers. If you want Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, and the rest of the productivity suite that hundreds of millions of people depend on for their professional and personal lives, the standard path is a monthly or annual subscription that you pay indefinitely. The price for Microsoft 365 Personal is currently around $70 per year. The family plan runs around $100 per year. And in 2025 and 2026, Microsoft introduced premium AI-powered tiers of Microsoft 365, branded as Microsoft 365 Copilot, that add significant monthly costs on top of the base subscription. For individual consumers, those premium Copilot features are being introduced at additional price points layered on top of what you are already paying for the basic productivity suite. Windows 365, Microsoft's cloud-based PC service, is already a subscription product. It delivers a full Windows experience streamed from Microsoft's cloud infrastructure, and it is billed monthly at rates ranging from roughly $20 to over $160 per month, depending on the hardware configuration you select. This product is currently marketed primarily to enterprise customers, but Microsoft has explicitly stated that it intends to expand Windows 365 to consumers in the future. When that expansion happens, millions of ordinary users will have the option of paying a monthly fee to access a Windows PC in the cloud from any device, including devices that do not meet the hardware requirements for locally installed Windows. The Windows Central analysis of Microsoft's longer-term strategy noted that some of these cloud-based hybrid experiences that lean on Microsoft's infrastructure will almost certainly be subscription-based, while making the key distinction that the local operating system you run on your physical hardware will not require subscription for basic functionality. But that distinction depends entirely on Microsoft's restraint, and the history of the past 3 years does not give consumers particularly strong grounds for trusting that restraint. And then there is Copilot. This is the subscription strategy that is not coming someday in a future version of Windows. It is already on your machine, already embedded at multiple levels of the operating system and the productivity applications you use every day, and it is already generating the exact pop-ups and persistent notifications that the title of this video describes. Beginning in December 2025 and continuing through early 2026, users across Microsoft's own Q&A community forums began reporting a new and intensely frustrating experience. Every time they opened a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, or an Outlook email, a pop-up appeared offering to connect them with Copilot in that specific application. Not once, not occasionally, every single time. One user on the Microsoft Q&A forum described opening approximately 50 spreadsheets per day and being required to dismiss the Copilot pop-up 50 times. One click for each document every single working day, with no available option to tell Microsoft permanently that they did not want the feature and would never want the feature. Multiple users noted the timing of these aggressive pop-up campaigns with pointed precision, observing that they began almost exactly when news reports revealed that Microsoft had significantly slashed its internal AI sales, growth targets after customers resisted purchasing the Copilot add-on at scale. The most infuriating detail in the entire user experience pattern was identified by multiple users simultaneously. The pop-up, which appeared without fail every time an Office application was opened, had no option to say no permanently. It offered to launch Copilot immediately. It offered a Not Now button. But there was no checkbox, no preference setting, no dialog option that said, "Do not show this again," which is a standard user interface convention that any self-respecting software company has included in notification design for the past 25 years. Users who had already uninstalled the Copilot application from their system, who had already disabled it through group policy, who had set their privacy settings to decline connected experiences, were still seeing these pop-ups, because the Copilot integration inside the Microsoft 365 apps operates as a separate layer from the system-level Copilot application. Multiple deployments of Microsoft's own official documentation providing instructions for disabling Copilot were found to be incomplete, outdated, or simply wrong. One enterprise IT administrator on the Q&A forum described following every official step in Microsoft's documentation, finding that the specified settings did not exist in the menu locations described, and concluding with notable restraint that Microsoft's documentation was, to use exact phrasing, failing them. Now, let us get to the part of this video that is actually going to solve your problem, because understanding the history and the strategy is valuable context, but what you came here for is the specific working method to make these pop-ups disappear permanently. The challenge is that there is no single switch that eliminates every Copilot touchpoint across every version of Windows 11 and every version of the Microsoft 365 applications. Copilot in 2026 lives in at least 7 distinct locations: the taskbar icon, the Windows search integration, the Microsoft Edge sidebar, the Notepad application, File, Explorer's right-click context menu, the Photos application, and the Paint application. Additionally, this Microsoft 365 suite has its own separate Copilot integration that operates independently of the system-level Copilot. To achieve a comprehensive block, you need to address multiple layers, but each individual step is straightforward and the entire process takes under 15 minutes. The first and fastest step addresses the most visible surface of the problem: the Copilot icon on your taskbar and the keyboard shortcut that activates it. Open settings using the Windows key plus the letter I simultaneously. Navigate to personalization, then select taskbar from the list. Under the taskbar item section, find the toggle labeled Copilot and switch it to off. This removes the Copilot icon from your taskbar immediately without requiring a restart. It is important to understand that this step alone is not sufficient to fully block Copilot. Even with the taskbar icon removed, Copilot can still be launched through Windows Search, through the dedicated Copilot key that appears on newer laptop keyboards, and through deep links in other applications. But removing the taskbar icon eliminates the most common accidental activation path and is the right first step in a layered blocking strategy. The second step is to uninstall the Copilot application itself. Open Settings, navigate to Apps, and select Installed Apps. Scroll through the list or use the search field to find Microsoft Copilot. Click on it, select the 3-dot menu that appears, and choose Uninstall. Confirm the uninstallation when prompted. On most Windows 11 installations updated in late 2024 or 2025, Copilot is now treated as a standard store application rather than a protected system component, which means this uninstallation process is available to regular users without administrative permissions or technical workarounds. If you do not see an uninstall option and instead see only a modify option, it means Copilot is still installed as a system component on your build, and you will need to use the PowerShell method described in a moment. The third step is critical and addresses the most common reason that Copilot removal fails to stick over time. Windows Update and the Microsoft Store's automatic app installation feature will reinstall Copilot silently without notification after you remove it, unless you explicitly block this behavior through the registry. Press Windows key plus R to open the Run dialog. Type Regadite and press Enter to open the registry editor. If you receive a user account control prompt, click Yes to proceed. Navigate through the folder structure on the left side to the following path: HKEI, current user, then software, then Microsoft, then Windows, then current version, then Content Delivery Manager. If you are comfortable navigating the registry, this path should be familiar. Once you have reached Content Delivery Manager, look on the right panel for a value named Silent Installed Apps Enabled. If it exists, double-click it and change its value data from 1 to 0. If it does not exist, right-click in the empty space on the right panel, select New, then doored 32-bit value. Name it Silent Installed Apps Enabled and set its value to 0. Click OK and close the registry editor. This setting prevents Windows from automatically reinstalling applications that you have removed, including Copilot, through its silent background installation system. The fourth step uses PowerShell to ensure Copilot is removed for all user accounts on the machine, not just your currently active account. Right-click the Start button and select Terminal with Admin or Windows PowerShell with Admin from the menu that appears. In the PowerShell window that opens, type the following command exactly as written. Get Apex package. Name Microsoft.Copilot. Pipe remove Apex package. All users. Press Enter and allow the command to complete. This removes the Copilot package from every user profile on the device simultaneously. For users on Windows 11 Pro, Enterprise, or Education editions, a fifth step using group policy provides the most durable system-level block. Press Windows key plus R, type gpedit to .mc, and press Enter. Navigate through User Configuration, then Administrative Templates, then Windows Components, and look for the Windows Copilot folder. Inside that folder, double-click the policy named Turn Off Windows Copilot, select the Enabled option, click Apply, and then click OK. Close the group policy editor and either restart your computer or open a new command prompt as administrator and run gp-update/force to apply the policy immediately. For users on Windows 11 Home, which does not include the group policy editor, the equivalent registry approach achieves the same result. Open Registry Editor using the method described earlier. Navigate to HKE local on machine, then Software, then Policies, then Microsoft, then Windows. If a folder named Windows Copilot does not exist inside the Windows folder, right-click on the Windows folder, select New, then Key, and name the new key Windows Copilot. Select the Windows Copilot folder, then right-click in the right panel, select New, then doored 32-bit value, and name it Turn Off Windows Copilot. Double-click it and set the value data to 1. Click OK and restart your computer. This registry entry implements the same policy that the group policy editor would create, and it works on Home Edition. The sixth and often overlooked step addresses Copilot in Microsoft Edge, which operates as an entirely separate integration from the system-level Copilot and persists even after the system Copilot is removed. Open Edge, click the three-dot menu in the upper right corner and select Settings. In the Settings sidebar, select the option for Sidebar. Find the Copilot entry in the sidebar settings and toggle it off. Additionally, look for the option labeled Show Copilot button on the toolbar and disable it. These changes remove the Copilot entry point from your browsing experience independently of whatever you have done at the operating system level. The seventh step addresses the Microsoft 365 application-level Copilot pop-ups that have been tormenting users since December 2025. This is the layer that most guides miss, and it is the layer responsible for the relentless every time you open a document pop-up behavior. If you're running a version of Microsoft 365 updated to version 24.12 or later, open any Office application such as Word or Excel. Go to File, then Options, then look for a section or tab labeled Copilot. If this section exists in your version, clear the checkbox labeled Enable Copilot and click OK. Close and restart the application. For users whose Office version does not yet show this Copilot tab in Options, an alternative approach is to navigate to File, then Options, then Customize ribbon. In the Main tabs list, look for any Copilot or AI-related entries and uncheck them. Click OK and restart the application. This addresses the ribbon integration and can eliminate the in-app pop-up for many users, even without the dedicated Copilot toggle. After completing all of these steps, open Task Manager using Control plus Shift plus Escape. Select the Startup Apps tab. Look for any entry related to Copilot. In the list of applications that launch automatically when Windows starts, if you find any, right-click them and select Disable. This prevents any remaining Copilot components from initializing at System Startup, even if they were not fully removed by the previous steps. Here's the warning that every guide on this topic needs to be honest about, including this one. Microsoft's update pipeline will fight back. Cumulative Windows updates have a documented history of re-enabling Copilot settings that users have disabled, reversing registry changes, and reinstalling the Copilot application after it has been removed. The registry entry blocking, Silent Installed Apps Enabled, significantly reduces the likelihood of automatic reinstallation, and the group policy or registry turn off Windows Copilot block provides a policy-level enforcement layer that persists through many, but not all, update events. The most durable long-term protection for users on Pro and higher editions, is to combine the app blocker application blocking method, which prevents the Copilot package from executing even if it is reinstalled by an update, with the registry and group policy blocks described earlier. App blocker configuration requires creating a packaged app rule and local security policy that denies execution to packages signed by Microsoft, bearing the name Microsoft Copilot, which is a more advanced step but provides the most update-resistant blocking available. For the majority of home users who do not want to maintain ongoing registry checks after every Windows update, the practical middle ground is to complete the steps described in this video. Then check your Copilot status after each major cumulative update, particularly after each monthly Patch Tuesday and each major feature update. If Copilot has been reinstalled or re-enabled, the process of removing it takes less than 5 minutes once you are familiar with the steps. The 15 minutes you spend a day learning this process pays dividends every month going forward. Let us step back now and look at the bigger picture that connects the viral rumor, the ongoing subscription strategy, the relentless pop-up campaigns, and Microsoft's stated direction for Windows over the next several years. Because the most important insight from all of this research is not about any individual feature or any specific update. It is about a fundamental shift in how Microsoft thinks about its relationship with Windows users and the gradual normalization of behaviors that would have generated massive public backlash 5 years ago. When Microsoft first introduced Copilot as an optional feature in Windows 11 in 2023, the framing was entirely about user benefit and voluntary adoption. An intelligent assistant ready to help when you wanted it, invisible when you did not. That framing has been progressively abandoned over the past 2 years. The feature has been embedded in progressively more locations across the operating system. The pop-up campaigns in Microsoft 365 applications demonstrate a willingness to use aggressively intrusive promotional tactics to drive adoption even against users who have explicitly declined the feature. The absence of a permanent opt-out in the pop-up design is not an oversight. It is a deliberate choice. The subscription model question, stripped of the viral rumor's false specifics, points to a real and documented trend in how Microsoft monetizes Windows. The base operating system for consumers will not require a monthly subscription for basic use in the near term, as Windows Central's senior editor confirmed after direct sourcing inside Microsoft. The local desktop you depend on will remain accessible without a recurring fee. But the line between what counts as basic use and what counts as a premium feature requiring subscription access is a line that Microsoft draws unilaterally, and it has been moving consistently in one direction over the past several years. AI-powered productivity features that were once positioned as optional additions are being integrated ever more deeply into core workflows, creating environments where opting out of the subscription layer increasingly means opting out of functionality that the software was designed to make you depend on. The Windows user community's response to this trajectory, which the viral rumor made visible even if its specific claims were wrong, reflects a level of institutional mistrust toward Microsoft that the company has genuinely earned through its product decisions over the past several years. The Windows' latest analysis of why the subscription rumor spread so quickly despite being built on recycled speculation and AI-generated content identified the root cause precisely. Microsoft's aggressive AI push, the forced recall feature that captured screenshots of everything you did on your computer, the progressive embedding of Copilot across every surface of the operating system, and the productivity suite, and the erosion of meaningful user control over what software runs on their own. Machines have created an environment where even technically unsupported rumors about subscription pricing are immediately believable to enormous numbers of users. When a rumor that your operating system company is preparing to charge you a monthly fee to use your computer spreads to millions of people before anyone checks the underlying sources, it tells you something important about the relationship between that company and its users. It is a relationship that has been built on eroding trust, and Microsoft's stated direction for Windows going forward suggests the company has not yet fully grasped the depth of the problem. There is one more dimension of this story that deserves careful attention before we get to the final action summary, and it is a dimension that is rarely discussed with sufficient honesty. In mainstream technology coverage, the population of Windows users who are most vulnerable to exactly the kind of subscription creep and feature forced adoption that Microsoft is executing is not the technical community. The technical community, by definition, knows how to find and follow a guide like this one. The population most vulnerable is the hundreds of millions of ordinary non-technical Windows users, retirees, small business owners, students, healthcare workers, tradespeople, anyone who uses a computer to accomplish practical goals and has neither the time nor the inclination to monitor Microsoft's update pipeline, read technology journalism, or navigate registry editors and PowerShell terminals to protect themselves from their own operating system's built-in promotional machinery. For these users, The experience of the past 2 years has been a progressive erosion of the familiar and predictable computing environment they relied on. The taskbar moved and then could not be moved back. The right-click context menu was redesigned to hide commonly used options behind an additional click. Copilot appeared in the taskbar, then in the right-click menu, then in Notepad, then in the Photos app, then in the Paint application, then in File Explorer, then began generating pop-ups inside every Office application they opened. None of these changes were requested by users. None of them were accompanied by meaningful choices at the time of installation. They arrived as mandatory updates, and the options available to users who did not want them required technical knowledge that cannot reasonably be expected of a general computing audience. This is the context in which the Windows 12 subscription rumor exploded so rapidly across non-technical audiences. When you have spent 2 years experiencing unwanted software materializing on your computer without consent, features being added to your machine without your agreement, and pop-up campaigns interrupting your work every time you open a document, the suggestion that the company responsible for all of this is preparing to charge you a monthly fee for the privilege does not seem far-fetched. It seems like the logical next step in a sequence of behaviors that have already established a clear pattern. The rumor was technically wrong about the specific product and timeline. It was emotionally accurate about the direction and the pattern. Microsoft's engineering teams understand this. The Windows 11 26.2 update currently in development, which is the real 2026 Windows story rather than the fictional Windows 12 subscription narrative, is reportedly focused substantially on rebuilding user trust through restraint. The system, plus roadmap analysis, describe the goal explicitly, a retreat from forced AI integrations, making features like Copilot optional rather than persistent, restoring UI flexibility that users have been requesting since Windows 11 launched, and demonstrating through product decisions rather than press releases that Microsoft is listening to its user base. Whether that internal direction actually produces a meaningfully better experience by the time the fall update arrives in October 2026 is something that the Windows community will evaluate based on what Microsoft ships, not what it promises. The track record of the past 2 years has established that Microsoft's stated commitments to user control and optional AI integration have not consistently translated into product decisions that honor those commitments in practice. For the small business owner watching this video who opened their accounting software this morning and found a Copilot pop-up waiting, the corporate strategic narrative is not their immediate concern. Their concern is getting through their working day without being interrupted every time they open a file. For the remote worker whose employer provides a Windows 11 laptop and whose IT department has been unable to fully eliminate the Copilot pop-ups despite applying every official mitigation documented by Microsoft, the concern is productivity and focus. For the retiree who has been using Microsoft Office for 15 years and suddenly finds their familiar word processor generating prompts TO chat with an artificial intelligence every time they open a letter, the concern is simply being left alone by software they paid for and have been using contentedly for years. All of these concerns are legitimate. All of them are addressable with the steps described in this video. And all of them reflect a broader truth about the current state of the Windows ecosystem that Microsoft would do well to internalize before it loses a meaningful portion of its user base to alternatives. The technology analysis firm that covers Microsoft, most closely Windows Latest, concluded its investigation of the Windows 12 subscription rumor with a sharp observation. The real work ahead for Microsoft, it noted, is not the marketing spectacle of a new major version number. It is regaining trust by shipping dependable, transparent improvements to the Windows that millions of people depend on every day. That is not a complicated prescription. It does not require a new product name, a new architecture, or a new monetization strategy. It requires Microsoft to remember that the foundation of its relationship with 1 billion users is not a subscription contract. It is the accumulated trust of people who have relied on this company's software for decades and who are currently running out of patience for having that trust treated as a resource to be monetized rather than a responsibility to be honored. The most actionable thing you can take away from all of this is the combination of the technical steps described in this video and a clear-eyed understanding of what is actually happening versus what the rumor machine is amplifying. Windows 12 as a mandatory subscription operating system is not arriving in 2026. That specific panic was manufactured from recycled leaks, AI-generated speculation, and a content ecosystem that prioritizes engagement over accuracy. But the subscription creep that should concern you is already present in the software you are running today, and the pop-ups and persistent notification campaigns that prompted the title of this video are not a preview of a future state. They are the current state, and they require active management to keep them from consuming your productivity and your privacy on a daily basis. The 7-step blocking method covered in this video gives you that management capability today, right now, before you open your next spreadsheet, and find a Copilot pop-up occupying the center of your screen where your cursor should be. The process takes less than 15 minutes from start to finish. It costs nothing. It requires no special technical background. And it puts control over your own computer back where it belongs, in your hands, rather than in Microsoft's marketing department. Removing the taskbar icon eliminates the most visible daily trigger that sends millions of users reaching for a Not Now button they should never have been forced to click in the first place. Uninstalling the Copilot application removes the primary installation from your system entirely. Disabling silent installed apps enabled in the registry prevents automatic reinstallation through Windows Update's background silent installation mechanism, which is responsible for most cases where Copilot reappears after a removal. The PowerShell removal command addresses all user accounts on the device simultaneously and cleanly. The group policy or registry turn-off Windows Copilot block enforces the removal at a durable policy level that survives most cumulative updates. Disabling Copilot in Edge removes the browser-level layer completely and independently. And addressing the Microsoft 365 in-app Copilot toggle eliminates the relentless every document pop-up that has been frustrating users since December 2025. Together, these 7 steps represent the most comprehensive and durable Copilot. Blocking configuration available on Windows 11 as of March 2026. None of them require paid tools, none of them require technical certifications, and all of them are reversible if you ever change your mind. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of what Microsoft is actually doing versus what the internet claims it is planning. Share this video with every Windows 11 user in your life who has been seeing those persistent pop-ups and wondering how to make them stop permanently. And drop a comment below letting us know which of these blocking methods worked on your specific setup. Because with Microsoft's update pipeline actively working to reverse these configurations, community feedback on what holds after each monthly update is genuinely valuable information. We will see you in the very next one indeed.